You know, all the people that point to the thief on the cross for their excuse and justification not to be water baptized. I mean, you have to know, first of all, that there's no power in your life. You know, that's in water baptism is where we're born of that incorruptible seed, Jesus. That's where we die with him, and that's where our body is given life, because that's where we sow it. I mean, the principles of sowing and reaping. You know, as Jesus said of himself in John chapter 12, you know, unless a seed falls to the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it does fall to the ground and die, it bears much fruit. You know, and as Paul is described in several places in his letters, Romans chapter 6, verses 3 and 4, 1 Corinthians 15:29, else what are they to do which are baptized for the dead if the dead rise not? Which he's given testimony to Romans chapter 6, verses 3 and 4 right there. As many as were baptized into Jesus Christ were baptized into his death. Therefore we are buried with him in baptism, he says. You know, before Jesus was crucified and was laid in the grave and then raised from the dead that third day and then raised to the right hand of God, the new covenant was not put in power. I mean, he told Peter in John chapter 13, on the eve of his crucifixion, after he'd ate the Passover with his disciples, and he laid his garments to the side, and he girded himself with a towel to wash their feet. And Peter said, "You shall never wash my feet." And Jesus said, "Peter, if I don't, you have no part with me." And Peter said, "Well, not only my feet, but my hands and my head." But Jesus said, "He who is washed only needs to wash his feet and is every whit clean. And you are clean, but not all," because John said he knew that Judas Iscariot would betray him. And we got to see that in John chapter 4, Jesus washed his disciples in water baptism. You know, and then they were sanctified and washed by the washing of the water by the word that Paul describes in Ephesians 5:26 throughout Jesus' ministry, because in John 15:3, Jesus tells his disciples, "Now are you clean through the word which I have spoken unto you," after having been water baptized by him.